the HCLTech Trends and Insights podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the HCLTech Trends and Insights podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing the findings of the latest research report from HCLTech on the blueprint to AI-led operating models, and specifically why people will power the shift to product-aligned operating models. I'm joined by Satish Srinivasan, AVP Digital Business Services at HCLTech, and he is going to help us take a deep dive into this topic. Satish, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicholas.
Excellent. Well, let's get straight into it then. Many organizations face challenges with things like team efficiency, and in the report, it found that 95% of decision makers express dissatisfaction with their current team structures. What are the key factors that contribute to these inefficiencies, and how can companies address them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a surprise, right, with this research saying 95% are expressing dissatisfaction. Let me break this down a bit, right? And there are three parts to this, right? So one is making changes takes too long, especially in the process to make any changes in the team, in the structure. 37% of people that we researched, right? So they're saying this. The second point is managing growth and scale. That's a significant problem, right? So that's another whopping 35% of them saying that. And third factor is leadership engagement or inadequate leadership, right? So that's another big 20% of them saying that, right? So all of these factors contribute to inefficiencies in organizational structure, especially in a fast-paced world that we are in with IT changes happening. It's not a surprise, but we could talk about how we can address some of these.
Absolutely. And when it comes to improving team collaboration and efficiency and addressing those issues you just mentioned, what changes need to be made in organizational structures to enable a more seamless transition to a product-aligned operating model?
Definitely, right? So when it comes to product-aligned operating model, right, and the fundamental factor is how close are we to the customer, right? So do we understand the customer well? And are we aligned to the right goals to solve the most relevant customer problems? And to do that, right, so you need to, what we call as value stream alignment becomes very key, right? So, and the concept of value stream is to think from a customer perspective and organize your activities without having silos in your organization, right? So have a customer and value focus and organize your activities and your thinking on those lines and to deliver better alignment to business outcomes, right? So, and 64% of the respondents, right, in our research said that the organization doesn't understand the value alignment, right? So to enable value flow. So if we align to use the value stream thinking and align to customer needs, that will significantly be the first step to improve collaboration. Second is also to have clear roles, right? So what each person is doing in a product aligned model, because here it's not about rigidity in structure, it's about enabling fluidity. At the same time, that can come only with role clarity, right? So with like what an engineer would do, what a product owner would do, what a product manager would do, right? So, and what are their goals? And to have this, what we call as objective key results, right? OKRs, stacked up hierarchically, leading all the way to customer objectives, right? So what will add value to customer? So these two aspects of value stream alignment and simplified and clear roles, right, with OKRs will be fundamental to enabling collaboration and efficiency in the teams.
So it's clear that change is needed, but actually resistance to change is often a barrier. And I'm wondering then, how can companies overcome this challenge, particularly when 37% of the respondents from an employee point of view, reported frustration with slow processes and slow change.
Yep, that's right. So change is definitely a challenge for any organization, and all the more critical when we are thinking about moving to a product aligned operating model, because we change the fundamental ways in which people work, right? So here, as we know, right, and Marty Kagan and other key leaders in this, experts in the space have mentioned, principles need to be prioritized over processes in a product aligned operating model, right? And when we have that as a fundamental mode of thinking, then we could look at what is causing this resistance to change, and we can break that down into three parts, right? So one is, what is in it for me, which for each stakeholder involved, which means we have to think, what is in it for me, for the engineer, what is in it for the product manager, and starting all the way from what is in it for the customer, right? So, and how do we establish and align to the goals is key to define this. And the second aspect to resistance to change is uncertainty and fear of failure, right? So when teams go into a more outcome-oriented model, which is critical for product-aligned operating model, right? We're not here talking about delivering just features or completing to a plan. It's about actually delivering the outcomes, right? So delivering value to the customer. So what does all this mean, right? So how do we bring down the fear of failure and given a little bit of freedom, right? And prioritize innovation over predictability. So all that will help bring some clarity to the teams. And the third and most also important is to drive purpose and vision into the teams, right? So how do we make sure whatever they're working on is significantly valuable for the customer as well as the organization? And again, breaking that down backwards into OKRs and giving the freedom for them to deliver these outcomes, right? So, and how do we enable all this will be through clear communication channels. We'll talk about it in a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've touched upon it, but cross-functional collaboration is absolutely crucial when implementing a product-aligned operating model. So how can businesses ensure a culture of collaboration and clear communication? What best practices can they follow? What did the report find?
Yep, you call it right, cross-functional misalignment, right? So that's very, very important. And that happens all the time. In the traditional models, we try to put in a strict governance, but that won't work in a product-aligned model, right? So in product-aligned model, we need to focus on demolishing what we call as the silos, right? And over 32% of the people we surveyed, they said increasing trust is fundamental for that, right? And over 39% said they need better communication channels to drive better collaboration. So how do we go about increasing trust? Fundamentally, we need to be sharing information, right? So when I say sharing information, it's about, do we understand the customer well, right? So we would have many mechanisms to survey, research directly, indirectly on what would work for the customer. And also, how are we organized? What is the performance of the team? Right? What is the performance of the product that we are delivering? Right. So over 35% of our research respondents said they need better clarity on data and feedback. Right. So which means we need to ensure there are better communication channels set all the way across. We need to collect the right information and be transparent in sharing that information so that the teams can make the right decisions at the right time, right? So when that is enabled with clear goals set for each team and each stakeholder and improving trust with transparency, collaboration will automatically happen. And we need to have these tools in place and drive that, right? And we'll also have to focus on data that we are capturing to do this, and that becomes key to drive as well to improve collaboration.
Absolutely. And a lot of this change, or most of it, will come from the top down, from leadership. But the report found that 51% of organizations feel leadership could do more to align product goals with overall business objectives. So what are the steps that leaders can take to proactively address this?
One of the key developments that they can leverage is, of course, AI, right? So AI is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Everybody's talking about it, but it's very important tool for going into a product aligned operating model. And how can we use AI? How can leaders enable that? Right. So we can drive better customer insights, right? Even before we figure out, our customer comes back and says, "Oh, this is working, not working." We can leverage AI tools to understand based on the data patterns, how are we seeing interaction by the customer with our product, right? And how are they engaging with their customers, and how does a product perform? So there's a lot of data analysis that's possible with the AI, right? So that's definitely something the leaders can enable immediately, right? And then also the leadership engagement, right? So that's key to drive better alignment to product goals and objectives, right? So when we see leadership engagement, they need to be consistently aligned, right? And we are seeing patterns on this across the large and medium-sized companies, right? While large companies in our research said it's very important, but somewhere they don't seem to be actioning it, right? Whereas the medium-sized companies seem to be more close to action in terms of defining business value-based funding models, right? So these are some of the aspects that leadership should stay close to and have a periodic touch point. They should also be looking at data on what is working and what is not working, and make these decisions, right, to make those data available to the teams, and they also should make the right decisions to enable this.
Okay, so let's go into the topic of AI in a bit more detail. Can you point to any specific examples of ways that generative AI, for example, can help empower employees and enable a more seamless transition to a people-centric, product-aligned operating model?
Yes, definitely. We are working with a few of our large customers in enabling this change, right? And AI can help across from strategy to governance, right? And everything in between, and can also enable decisions and insights across different roles and people in the organization, right? So, for example, there are these three big buckets, or even the way we slice and dice, we could say in 3 to 5 buckets in which we are leveraging AI to do this. So when it comes to strategy and alignment, right? So we are starting to leverage data in terms of the customer goals, customer interaction patterns, right? And that is informing us to see which problem to solve, which problem not to solve. So what we call as the DFE framework: desirability, viability, and feasibility. Earlier, we used to do DFE based on our understanding and thinking with opinions, right? So now it's becoming more empirical and more data driven with customers' data. We are able to analyze them better with AI tools. Right? That's on strategy and alignment. And second is to what we call as business observability, right? So in terms of measuring the right insights, right? So when we have a large IT landscape and each of them have an impact into the business KPIs and business outcomes. So how do we measure this from the vast landscape of events and the telemetry data that we can capture from the applications, and slowly translating them into the business outcomes, right? So, or business KPIs. For example, if you take supply chain landscape, many applications globally with one of our manufacturing customers. But there are many things that go wrong, and they're not able to identify a specific reason why this is happening. And we are implementing an observability-led solution that is starting to give us visibility into the process metrics from their application telemetry and connecting to the business KPIs, right? So we are using AI-led solution to do this analysis and drive observability, right? And third is in terms of governance, right? So even before a failure happens, even before team alignment goes wrong in terms of key decisions, etc., we are able to leverage AI to understand these patterns, right? To nudge people or leadership with possible failure points, right? What we call as the failure mode analysis that we could do with extensive data, right? We are using AI to crunch these and make right decisions at the right time for leadership as well as the team level decisions as well.
And finally, with this advent of generative AI, employees are going to be required to adopt and learn new skills. How can organizations help facilitate this to enable a smoother transition to that end goal of a product-aligned operating model?
Yeah, great question, right? So one of the perspectives you're seeing is how AI impacts this is in three buckets, right? What we say as AI assisted, AI augmented, right? And AI led, right? So, or AI automated. So in the first model, it's about AI giving insights, right? And then the person is going to be making decisions or actions. The second is AI works collaboratively with agentic AI. That's possible. Like we have agents, AI agents do some activities. Then the users or product team members do some activities collaboratively. And the third is where there are some tasks that autonomously can be done by AI. And that's what we call as AI automated. And where very minimal intervention is needed, right? So this has a 3-stage maturity curve. It requires significant upskilling for teams. It requires enabling trust, right? So the teams also need to trust the AI models and their capabilities. So we are training our talent pool to do this, right? And leaders can do this across the board. Whoever is keen on moving to a product operating model, it's important to upskill the employees and also provide them an environment where agents can coexist with employees, right? And then it's not about one versus the other. It's about one complementing the other, right? So that culture of working together, right? And working towards an integrated model to deliver better business value and business outcomes for the customer is essential for a product aligned model. And that's what we are working towards enabling our customers to do.
Satish, thank you so much for your insights. And for those who are interested in taking a deeper dive into the report, you can click on the link in the description below.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, Nicholas.